Now, Clyde and Clarence were both giants. Great big giants. And they roamed the land just being brothers, doing all their little brotherly thing and having their little discontinuances and their fights and their arguments and things like that. Well, one day while they were walking, they met a beautiful giantess. Her name was Ingrid. And Ingrid was the most beautiful giantess you had ever seen. She had long blonde hair and great big blue eyes and a set of yes, she did. And both Clyde and Clarence were infatuated with her. They both fell in love with her. They both said she was going to be theirs. But Ingrid had a mean father. His name was George. And George didn't like Clarence. And he didn't like Clyde. He had another giant in line for Ingrid to marry and did not want either one of these two anywhere near his daughter. And he told them both to go away. Leave Ingrid alone. Well, Clarence and Clyde weren't the brightest bulbs in the box. I mean, they were big and strong and just had little bitty brains, almost like a dinosaur, great big body, little bitty brain. And they both decided to argue with George and say, "We will take Ingrid." And George, being the mean daddy that he was, said, no, this ain't happening. You going to leave Ingrid alone, and you two going to take your happy on asses out of here. Well, they didn't listen. Like I said, they weren't the real brightest bulbs in the box. So they decided, well, between the two of us, we can take on old George, and we can just sit there and whip George up, and then we'll figure out, we'll split Ingrid one way or the other, however it works out. So they decided they were going to beat up George. Well, George, he didn't get that all for a reason. He was big, and he was strong, and he knew how to deal with idiots like Clyde and Clarence. And he picked up old Clarence, and he punched Clarence right in the nose, and Clarence went sliding along the ground. And by the time he had stopped, he had kicked up enough dirt and stuff to create the Rocky Mountains. And then he picked up Clyde. And he picked up Clyde and he threw him up in the air. And when Clyde finally hit the ground and bounced a couple of times, old Clyde had created the Grand Canyon. So don't you listen to how any of these geologists and physiologists and scientists tell you how the Rocky Mountains or the Grand Canyon is made. Because I just told you the true story of the Rocky Mountains and the Grand Canyon. Good night.